G'day and welcome to another episode of Kiwi Car Life, and today we're going to be showing you the differences between this Honda Accord Euro 6-speed manual and this Subaru Legacy 3 litre R 6-speed manual. On the exterior front they're obviously both silver and they both have aftermarket grey wheels on them, so they look pretty similar to be honest, but there are a few notable differences. Here at the front my car kind of has the sports kit whereas this car doesn't, and this one also has a mesh grille whereas mine has a frankly kind of ugly chrome grille. Around back both of these cars look very nice. My Accord happens to have obviously the sports kit I talked about before, which also includes the boot spoiler. The Legacy doesn't have it, but overall it does still look very nice. And I think the main thing that makes the back end of these cars look really meaty and muscular is the twin exit exhausts, which sound very nice. Let's have a listen to what the Legacy sounds like first. And now have a listen to my very average sounding stock exhaust on my Accord. The interiors are also very similar as well. Both of them have the cloth interior and the general sort of room and space on the inside of these cars is very similar. The boot space is negligible and likewise the rear legroom is basically the same as well. The gauge clusters of both of these cars are very similar as well. They both got red lines of 7000, they both show basically the same information and they both have a nice sort of quite crystal clear backlit appearance to them, but the Legacy has a red and white theme whereas the Accord has a blue and white theme. Both of these cars have very nice feeling leather trimmed steering wheels with little 10 and 2 notches here. However, the Accord has a few more buttons here on the steering wheel. It's got cruise control, buttons for the little center display, and buttons for the radio, whereas the Legacy doesn't have anything. In terms of interior features, they're pretty much the same as well. Neither of them have auto lights or wipers or anything like that, at least in these specs, although I'm sure it's probably available. Certainly in the Accord I know that it's available. Both of them have an radio that does things that nobody does anymore, like listen to CDs, and they both also have auto climate, although in the Accord it is dual zone. The Legacy has a 3 litre flat 6 with 180 kilowatt and 297 newton meters of torque, whereas the Accord has a 2.4 litre inline 4 with 140 kilowatt and 233 newton meters of torque. Obviously both of these cars have their power sent through 6-speed manual transmissions. However, the Legacy has all-wheel drive and the Accord is front-wheel drive, but what that does translate to is a little bit of a weight saving with the Accord because it doesn't have the big all-wheel drive gubbins. The Legacy is 1500 kilos whereas the Accord is about 1390 kilos. So far in the engine department the Legacy is definitely a winner, but the Accord can strike back with fuel economy because this is rated to do 9.1 and this is rated to do a delightful 11.7. Anyway, enough rambling. What you really want to know is which car is faster. So first let's do a 0 to 100 time in the Legacy. According to the V-Box here, we did that in 7.2 seconds with 3.5 seconds to 60. So now let's see what the Accord can do. It's hard changing gear. That's 100. In that video, I did 3.9 seconds to 60 and 8 seconds to 100. So this Legacy is definitely faster, as you would expect with significantly more power and shorter gears. And if we have a rolling race, go. Oh, there they go. Oh my goodness. Right, that'll do. You'll see that the Legacy is noticeably faster there as well. So there we go. Surprise, surprise, the Legacy was the faster car. But now let's see how they drive. Okay, driving the Subaru Legacy, and the first thing that you notice when you drive this is that frankly this is not an easy car to drive. Every control surface has a very brash feel to it. The gearbox is like a truck gearbox to be honest, and you know the clutch and everything's really heavy. However, one nice thing is that even though the gearbox doesn't feel the best, it has very short ratios. Give it a little stab of throttle out of a corner and it is supremely powerful. Handling, put it foot down through. Oh yep, that's, oh my goodness mate, we had some lift off oversteer there. This guy definitely doesn't handle as well as the Accord. I thought that was a fairly ordinary speed to be driving through that corner, at least when I would take it in my Accord, and this thing just plowed through it. And then, mate, I came off the throttle because I was like, whoa, okay. And then I got lift off oversteer and the back end started coming around. And I'm like, what the hang is going on? It's a very fast car, there's no denying that. You know, you put your foot down and it's like, holy moly. Oh, the gears are so short. That Accord needs this gearbox, but still feel like it does in the Accord, if that makes sense. I guess to summarize my experience, engine's great, gearbox ratio is great, throttle response great, power delivery great, gearbox feel not great, clutch ease of use not great, steering feel not great, and handling, I don't know if it's because it's all-wheel drive or because it's front heavy with a big flat six up there. The Accord, you have to push really hard before you get any understeer. It feels so discomposed. This, it's just pure understeer until you realize you're going a bit fast and back off, and then you get lift off oversteer, and it's not a very confidence inspiring car. So now let's take the Accord for a drive. The Accord is a very different driving experience. I mean, for starters, this gearbox feels like you're using a laser precision instrument as opposed to the Legacy, which feels like you're stirring a bucket of gravel. What's more, the clutch and throttle are much easier to use. The steering is also really, really nice in this car. It's so easy to place the car on the road, and the steering has a very, very nice amount of weight to it thanks to it being hydraulic. And in addition to that, the handling is simply outstanding. You turn into a corner like this, you know, here's a 30 corner at 60. No problem at all. However, where the Accord unfortunately starts to fall down is in the drivetrain. With less displacement comes less torque, and then for some idiotic reason, Honda decided to pair it with the longest gear ratios I think I have ever seen in a manual transmission car. And as a result, it's just sad because this lovely 4-cylinder that sounds fantastic and revs to nearly 8,000 RPM with a simple tune is just choked by the long ratios because it can never really get up into the power band like the Legacy can. This is like a precision instrument on a winding back road, and the handling through here, second gear, it is just, you could not do that in the Legacy. You couldn't even come close to doing that in the Legacy. So in conclusion, I feel like the Legacy is a bit like owning a bear. It's very exciting, but can be a little cumbersome and unrefined, and one day it might bite your head off. Whereas driving the Accord is a far more refined experience. All the control surfaces just have this razor sharp precision to them. But there's no denying that the Legacy definitely has the more lively engine and has far better suited gear ratios to the type of car that this is. I mean, it's a sporty sedan, for goodness sake. It shouldn't have gear ratios that are longer than the distance from the Earth to the moon. Well, there we go. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Kiwi Car Life, and if you want to see some more comparisons with my CL9, then click over here to see a comparison between this and a 325i, and click over here to see it compared with an Accord Euro R. And last of all, thank you very much for watching.